Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Today we're on the Northern Lights map in this Tier 8 domination battle, starring... I'm just going to call him Dave. Missile 1... I don't know. Dave, welcome back. Dave's in a light cruiser today. This is the USS San Diego, which is basically, if you're thinking that looks an awful lot like an Atlanta, yeah, the San Diego was an Atlanta-class light cruiser. Had quite a battle history as well, fought at Midway, fought in the Philippines, Okinawa, pretty much everywhere in the Pacific. The only real difference, well, aside from the fact that this thing's one tier higher than the Tier 7 USS Atlanta, well, there are a couple of differences. It's primarily to do with the ammunition. Has exactly the same guns and turret configuration as the Atlanta. That's 16 5-inch guns. The only difference is that whereas the Atlanta, in common with most cruisers, and most ships in the game for that matter, fires either armor-piercing or high explosive ammunition, the San Diego fires semi-armor-piercing instead of the high explosive. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It does mean that it is more effective against heavy cruisers and battleships, but less effective against destroyers. Although that doesn't mean it's ineffective against destroyers. Oh no. No, as any destroyer who's been unfortunate enough to find themselves getting shot at by the San Diego can attest, the San Diego is not ineffective against destroyers. But the high explosive shells from the Atlanta are inarguably more effective against destroyers than the semi-armor piercing shells from the San Diego here. Of course, the other benefit of the high explosive shells is you can set fires with them. You cannot do that with semi-armor piercing shells. Enemy Yorktown's decided that of all the ships on Dave's team, he's going to attack the one with the best possible anti-aircraft defences. Note Dave turning in towards the torpedo drop. Most carriers are going to drop their torpedoes at the last possible second to minimise the chance that you're actually going to be able to dodge them, which means that if you turn in towards the torpedoes, any that hit you are probably going to hit you before the fuse had a chance to arm, which is exactly what happened there. So yeah, carrier in play, unfortunately, but we are on the server where there is always a carrier in play. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Asia server. First blood to the friendly Bismarck, who's just nuked the enemy Chapayev out of existence. The enemy team have just lost their radar. Well, the enemy team have lost one of their radar. They do still have a USS Black. That's right. Even on the Asia server, the matchmaker doesn't know how to divide by two. Two ships with radar, two teams. Put them both on one team. Yay, that'll work. And yeah, because that's exactly what the matchmaker's done. Dave's team have no radar. The enemy team had two. They're down to one. Oh yeah, that's the other difference between the Atlanta and the San Diego. The Atlanta has radar. The San Diego does not. But it does get a main gun battery reload booster. Enemy team have just responded to the sinking of their Chapayev by nailing the friendly Mets. Meanwhile, Dave here, getting himself in cover behind the island and farming the enemy Azima over there with some... Wait a second, Azima? Oh, this is a Tier 9 battle, not a Tier 8 battle. Hang on a second. Dave, spotted. Yep, it wasn't the Azima. It's the enemy Neustrashimi. And it's at this point where if I hadn't already spoiled it by telling you, you would pretty quickly be able to figure out that this is actually happening on the Asia server. Because the Asia server has something of a reputation amongst the World of Warships community, and not just for having carriers in every single match. The Asia server is also famous for being populated by players who have the kind of thought processes of, well, that Neustrashimi captain over there, who appears to think that his smokescreen is going to keep him safe from Dave's hydroacoustic search. No, it is not. Smokescreens don't work like that. Now, I realise I'm leaving myself wide open to claims of cherry picking here, because it's easy to pick one example and say, look at that, the whole server's like that. And, well, is it? Show us the evidence. One example of somebody not understanding how hydroacoustic search works in a high-tier battle does not a trend make, so fair enough. Observe the enemy Shiratsu doing exactly the same thing around the other side of the island. Yeah. I appreciate, yeah, okay, it could have just been a coincidence. Maybe it's a fluke. Fair enough. Challenge accepted. As Dave backs up to avoid the Nostroshimi's pretty obvious torpedoes. To be fair, the San Diego is something of an outlier amongst US Navy light cruisers, because it does have a couple of things that you wouldn't normally expect to see on a US Navy light cruiser. Semi-armor piercing ammunition, for example. Also has torpedoes. While we're on the subject of torpedoes, as Dave cautiously backs up, trying to reacquire the Asma, who's almost certainly using the Nostroshimi smokescreen. Yep, there he is. But look behind the Asma. Look at the friendly Kitakazi. He's going around the outside of the map for the enemy carrier. I haven't seen a destroyer do that and get away with it. I used to do it all the time. If I was in a destroyer and you were in a carrier on the enemy team, way back in the open beta of World of Warships, I was going to sink you. It was just a question of how long it was going to take me to do it. I haven't seen anybody do that and succeed in a destroyer in this game since the closed beta. But the carrier players on the Asia server are so bad. You can still do this on the Asia server. Destroyers can, and you're about to see the evidence, and do still hunt down carriers on the Asia server, even destroyers with terrible AA like the Kitakazi. And they don't die. Only on the Asia server. Meanwhile, the Asma has disappeared and has been replaced by a Rook, the British battlecruiser. Oh, the Asma's still there, but he's not coming around the corner of the island because he knows. Well, maybe I'm giving him too much credit here. Maybe he's not coming around the corner of the island because he's just an abject coward. But let's be generous and say he's not coming around the corner of the island because he knows the San Diego has torpedoes. The Rook, however, does not. He knows now, after eating 3 of them. But, well, forewarned is forearmed, as they say. He's not going to make that mistake again, is he? He absolutely, totally is. Because we're on the Asia server. And that's just the way things work here. I mean, that doesn't mean he can't do any damage to Dave. Dave is just in a light cruiser, and those are 16-inch... Oh, well, doesn't matter. Oh. But again, Jingles, you're cherry picking. You know, one idiot in a battleship sailing it with a bunch of very obvious torpedoes does not a trend make. No, you're right. So let's just... Oh, is he going to be able to get the Scharnhorst? No. Well, I mean, the Scharnhorst got gotten, but it wasn't Dave who did it. So no, you're right. It's not fair to just point to the Rook and say, there you go, an entire server full of idiots. Which is why I didn't just point to the Nostroshimi and say, look, a destroyer captain at tier 9 who doesn't understand how hydro works, because right around the other side of the island was another destroyer captain who didn't understand how hydro works. And oh look, it's the Asma, another large capital ship player, just like the Rook, who sailed around the corner of an island, ate a bunch of torpedoes and thought, what are the chances of that happening again? Well, I'm definitely no mathematician, but based on the available evidence, I'm going to go with around about 100%. The Kitakazi, the full health Kitakazi, by the way. Did you see him? There he is. He did sink the enemy carrier, the Yorktown, and took no damage doing it. It's as if the last 4 years just didn't happen on the Asia server. Well, with the score's currently sitting at 660 to 198, with the enemy team down to their last 4 ships, and Dave's team having only suffered 2 casualties. I don't think... Let's just say you're not watching an episode of a Game of Thrones, so the ending of this match at this point is going to be fairly predictable. You know what else is going to be fairly predictable? Because it wasn't just the Rook and the Asma. Because of course it wasn't. I keep telling you, I'm not cherry picking. These aren't flukes. These are not coincidences. This is the Asia server. Come on then, Yumihari. We all know you're going to do it. Don't be coy. Don't be shy. You're not fooling anybody with your, oh, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? Maybe, I'm not sure. We know you're going to do it. Every other ship on your team's done it. We know you're not special. You're really not fooling anybody. Oh, the Mets and the Caracciolo just rammed each other because, well, I mean, at this point, it really doesn't make any difference. Those torpedoes were from the friendly carrier, because of course they were. I mean, why do something useful with your aircraft? As Dave, of course, torpedoes and sinks the Yumihari, leaving the only surviving ship on the enemy team, the destroyer, the USS Black. With the Kitakaze flipping the cap at Bravo, there it is, he's taken it, and Dave himself slipping into the central cap and flipping the cap here at Charlie. Just that one enemy destroyer left. Gee, if only there was a ship on the team that had some aircraft that could scout, do something actually useful with the single best intelligence gathering platform in the entire game. But no, he's busy torpedoing friendlies because we're on the Asia server, and that's just the way things work here. It is in fact the Kitakaze who spots the Black for the carrier, not the other way around, you know, the way it's supposed to work. The Black, of course, smokes up. He does have radar. In fact, he's probably using it, so he definitely still had at least one charge of radar left, because despite being in the smoke screen, he is still shooting and hitting the Kitakaze. But it is, of course, destroyer radar, so it's only going to last a couple of seconds, which means before too long the Black is going to go blind, because smoke screens work both ways. They're also torpedo magnets. He's going to have to get out of there and attempt to maybe take the Kitakaze down with him. But of course everybody else on the team was waiting for exactly that to happen, and he did get the Kitakaze, so a consolation kill there for the USS Black. Highest scoring player on the enemy team, which isn't going to be much of a spoiler. I mean, he's in a destroyer in a high tier battle, and he didn't die in the first 3 minutes, so he's clearly capable of thinking and breathing at the same time. Unfortunately for the Black, Dave's team had two players who were capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, Dave himself and the Kitakaze. And that was all it took to ensure that Dave's team won with an 8-kill, 4-cap circle, 800-point advantage. Hope you all enjoyed Dave's big Asia server adventure, or at least amused by it, because that's it for today. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.